My name is Bettina. I was born and raised in London, but all my family are from Caracas, Venezuela. And I'm an exchange student in Singapore. The crisis in Venezuela, in my opinion, began a long time ago. A lot of people see it as just a humanitarian crisis, but I think it began a long time when the Chavez regime started implementing different measures to assert their power and become more authoritative, and to also steal from the national reserves and become corrupt. So for me, I would have said this started over 10, 15 years ago, but the crisis that you see on the news of people starving and migrating and the inflation rising probably started around 6 years ago when Maduro came to power, that you started seeing the economic consequences of some of the measures taken under the Chavez regime. So I think the word interfere is an ambiguous and difficult term to pinpoint on this crisis. What we're currently seeing is international support for people such as Juan Guaido and the opposition parties of Venezuela. We're not seeing a military intervention as of yet. So in that sense, I think interference is completely justified because, in my opinion, the Venezuelan crisis will not be solved within Venezuelans without international support and pressure on the Maduro regime to step down and do what millions of people on the streets are demanding him to do, which is concede power to the democratically elected National Assembly. So the conflict and the issue at hand, I say, is a mix of things again. So right now what you see on the news is mainly about the fact that we have no longer a democracy in Venezuela. This has been happening for years now. And this is one of the many attempts that people, as members of the opposition, have tried in reinstating democracy back in the country. But you should also see it as well as a matter of conflict because people are sick and tired of corruption, sick and tired of not having basic human rights, violence being rife around the whole of Venezuela, and poverty, people having their businesses taken away, people being persecuted for political opinions or just being against the government, or living in a so-called capitalist society where they've had successful businesses and Chavez and Maduro weren't happy with that and they expropriated those businesses. So yes, in theory it is about democracy, but it also comes hand in hand with the fact that because of a lack of democracy, this whole other conflict and crisis has started where people's human rights have been taken away and the situation has become almost in a civil war. So I am a bit more lucky. I don't know if you'd say lucky, but I've been less directly affected because I was born and raised in London my whole life, but most of my family lived in Venezuela. And we still have a house in Venezuela that my parents own. Personally, I've seen incidents happen against my family members. So my granddad had to flee a few 10, 12 years ago because his business was deemed against the government and everything. And he was kind of in a way lucky that he didn't get to experience the more serious side of the Venezuelan crisis. I've seen that my cousins have experienced violence and different things because they carry maybe a particular surname or that because they participate in political protests. Or even just being a daily citizen of Venezuela, they've had violent incidents where gangs or colectivos have interjected, and I find it very sad that my cousins haven't been able to live in a democracy such as I have. And even just more regular examples of the crisis is when you want to order an ambulance in Venezuela. When my granddad was very ill, you have to order one 24 hours in advance. Now I think it's not even any more possible to order an ambulance, but it was just things where you would see a systematic breakdown of a country affect your family's way of living and the way that they can conduct themselves and the opportunities and possibilities that they have in life being more and more limited because of this regime.
Well, my name is Andres. I was born and raised in Caracas. I'm 19 years old, and out of those 19 years, 18 and a half, I have been living in Caracas, in the capital city of Venezuela. We have to first know that, well, there's many factors that deem Caracas as a hard city to live in. Caracas is currently the most violent city in the world, which accounts to more than 80, 90, even 100 murders per weekend. so it's quite dangerous. There's also a lot of kidnappings, a lot of robberies. Me personally, I've been robbed at gunpoint 3 times. So it's something that to live in Caracas, it's a lifestyle. You have to adopt to the circumstances, but it's in no ways easy to live there. And to answer you about the crisis, first of all, we have to know that there's something that's not new. Venezuela has been on on a decline since the late 80s, early 90s, when economy started to go wrong. The parties in power were starting to see cases of corruption lifted against them and so on. And first, Chavez did a coup in 1992, um, which of course was a completely criminal act, a brutal military coup, which killed more than 50 people back in the day. And yes, so Venezuela in the 90s it started to decline in a very slow way, but there was a breach that there were two parties in power, one center left and one center right. They constantly switched power between them, and people got sick of that. And Chavez got elected as president, but since his election, things started to go wrong. Um, Lots of companies were expropriated. There was just an immense amount of populism. Um, Politicians were prosecuted. I've been for all my life. I've been waiting for a moment for the government to fall, to change, mostly in a democratic way. And it's hard. It's hard to see your country decline as you grow older. It's a constant decline. And yeah, that's what it been has been for me since I was a kid. Since I was a kid, there's a huge political atmosphere in Venezuela. It's a very polarized country, which by the years, as the situation has gotten worse, it has become less polarized because things have gotten worse, and people have started to realize that well, there is need for a change. Yeah. Venezuela is a country that has been completely robbed, that has been completely kidnapped. There's no, all of the powers of the government are completely taken by the Maduro regime. The only remaining power, which was the National Assembly, back in March 2017, the Supreme Court deemed it as unconstitutional, deemed it as just basically declared it, eliminated it. They eliminated the National Assembly, which was the only democratically elected power in the country. Venezuela now, it's not like, oh, it's a PS against Les Républicains or a march against, I don't know, France Insoumise. No. Venezuela, it's now more towards those who want a change and those who support the tyranny. It's not a matter of left and right. It's more a matter of those who are against hunger, those who are against repression, and it's democracy versus tyranny. I think there's more ignorance about the issues. There's more people just think that oh, it's the U.S. meddling into foreign affairs again. No, it's not like that. It's not like Iraq. It's not like Panama. People in Venezuela are actually starving. There's more than 400 political prisoners. This past week, there have been more than 70 people that have been shot dead by the government forces in popular neighborhoods in favelas in Caracas, just because they protested. There have been death squads that have been deployed in the poorest neighborhoods of Caracas, killing people and imprisoning people as well as teenagers. Which there's a huge case now of imprisoned teenagers, of imprisoned minors in Venezuela. So it's a crisis from every standpoint: economical, humanitarian. There's no medicine. The government does not accept foreign aid, which has come to help. They sent a lot of containers that were shipped from Spain with medicines. They sent them back. Probably hurted their pride. I don't know, but you can guess. It's awful. It's clearly awful. I support as much Donald Trump as I support the government of Colombia, the government of Peru, of Argentina, of Chile, and the European Parliament, which today recognized Juan Guaido as the president of Venezuela. So it's not just Donald Trump. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
this.
Thank you.